Hey, recording already?
We'll catch up.
We'll catch up.
There's no one.
Alright. How do I start?
We started
already. We started already. But Nnamdi, it's good to see you, man. It's good to see you.
long time.
For those that don't know, of course, none of you, very few of you know. Last time I saw you was about 10 to 15 years, more than 10 years ago. About 15 years ago.
More than
2003, 4?
2003. Getting to 20 years.
20 years. And I was telling Nnamdi before we started recording that my last recollection of him was wearing shorts, running around off campus where we were both students. And you realize how much you have grown when you meet up with your old friends and see how well they're doing. And then you begin to appreciate where you are. It's like, wow, that's not bad though. I was telling the other day that when I meet my friends who are COOs or CTOs,
okay,
I'm like, boy, we've grown.
We've really grown.
We've grown. It's an amazing thing. Now, what I find interesting, most interesting, why we're having this conversation to start with,
okay,
is that we both went to the University of Technology.
Yes.
I veered off. I think I did civil engineering. It's a long time ago. I ended up doing financial services management and now leadership coach.
Okay.
You have also veered off.
Okay.
I beg. Tell us your story.
All right. So where did all of this start? I read environmental engineering. We were the second set that did environmental engineering.
Second set. Did you ever practice?
A little bit. Not necessarily, not directly in environmental technology itself. So I worked for about a year before I went for service. So after I came back from service, I worked for a year with a company where we did third-party inspection of vessels and rigs, their firefighting equipment.
Okay.
Yeah, so a little bit of in the marine sector, but it was really interesting for me because it helped me also see certain things that I will talk about. Okay, so I think you asked me the last time, how did I get into consulting? How did I move from environmental engineering
going from Port Harcourt to Ariana every day?
So we finished from Futo 2003 and 2004. And so the day I wrote my last paper, I came to Port Harcourt. My elder cousin owned a pharmacy that had branches in Port Harcourt and I think so. I had branches in Port Harcourt and show his face. I love his voice.
Calm down.
You see his face. And so I left Futo, but he had a pharmacy that had branches in Port Harcourt, and there was an armed robbery incident about 3 months or so before I finished university, so he was incapacitated. So the day I wrote my last paper was the day they were moving him finally from L.I.V.E hospital to Port Harcourt. But he had POP in his leg, so he couldn't even do anything. So I came straight from Futo after my last paper to come and basically manage that business. Now, my whole experience, my whole journey into business and consulting actually started from Ariana Market. And it was working with him that led to that. So he was the major supplier of pharmaceutical drugs and equipment to energy company.
Okay.
And we were getting the drugs majorly from Aba, Onitsha, and then some we were importing directly. But majority of them were coming from Aba.
Put the perspective, Aba is about an hour and a half from Port Harcourt.
No, 35 minutes.
Okay. Onitsha, on the other hand,
It is almost 2 hours.
All right.
Almost 2 hours. So Aba was like 35 minutes, then the road to a lot better. So 30 minutes, that's it. So, but my responsibility was receive the orders from NLNG, get the drugs, and then supply to them. But again, the guys in Aba had no structure. They were just doing things anyhow. So I found myself getting an order for drugs from NLNG and delivering in 3, 4, 5 days. So I would drive to Aba, pick up the drugs. By the time I get to Port Harcourt, what they told me and what is inside is different. Or they packaged it in a different manner. Something just very disorderly. But when I go to NLNG, I notice that there's an order, to how things were done. When you enter, you do this, then you do this, then you do this. So it was frustrating for me to see both of them. I began to take notes of what was happening, you know. These are the things, so this is how they do this is how they do invoicing, this is how they do this is how they do this. And I began to take some of those lessons and began to share with those guys in Aba in Arera. Say, look, why not try this? Invoice like this instead. If something is missing, for example, don't add it to the receipt if you didn't put it in. You know, small things like that. And they began to, you know, some of them began to listen and apply those things. So I moved from making one delivery in 3 days to one delivery in 2 days to one delivery every day, and then to 2. And even there were times I even did 3 deliveries in a day.
Well, that's because L&G was giving you more orders.
So because our efficiency was increasing,
Okay.
because a lot of those loopholes, a lot of those unorderly practices of doing business were reduced. Some of them followed the advices I was giving them.
Okay.
It meant they were able to do things more efficiently, which meant L&G could trust us with more orders. And so we were doing more orders. In fact, they were shocked the first time they gave us an order and they got it that day.
Fantastic.
Then, after a while, they gave us an order, we supplied. They gave another order, we supplied. The same day.
They told us the same day.
The same day. And it's not like we had them in Port Harcourt. We actually had to go to Aba to get them. And so, it was an interesting experience for me. So, a few years later, you know, foraying into different things, I started my own business and began to do things unconsciously by myself, without any order, without any structure, and a lot of them failed. There was even there was a time I tried to do supply of IT equipment. I got one contract with PH, NEPA back then. And it was a 9 million naira contract. But because I didn't have the orders and things in place, it cost me 10 point something million. What? So it means I paid. See, what? After that, I sat down and said, I almost entered depression. So, looking around, foraying all through that, I now found that my notes from working with NLM, and I started going through it. I started to see mistakes that I was making. And so I took some lessons, applied them to some of my business. They worked. Took another one, applied, and they worked. And that's how I read books. I won't take a whole book and race to finish it.
Sure.
I'll read 2 chapters. Well, so I may read a book for 6 months. I know what I'm doing. It's not the knowledge that produces results, it's the usage of the knowledge.
Time you're done with the books, you internalized it, you understand it.
It's inside your DNA. And so I'll take one lesson, go and apply it to produce results. And then my businesses began to improve.
What is interesting that? And also funny that you were able to advise businesses, right? But when you went to do your own, you completely forgot. It's as if you compartmentalized that information for this. And like thought, oh, I'm good. I know what I'm doing.
We know doctors who smoke or advise other people to stop smoking. It's the same thing. So that was a serious wake-up call for me. That look, you know these things, you have experience in all these things. So as it began to work, I now became intentional about reading.
That was what I was going for. That intent.
That there's got to be a different way of doing business. A better way
of the business.
In Excel and Risk Consulting, where I'm senior partner, we have this belief, we call it simplicity. If there's a simpler and better way, we will use it. And so I began to do things and things began to improve. I now also had the confidence to begin to advise people on my own. So someone comes to me and says, I have this issue. I say, try this. And they try it and it works, some don't work. Until one day someone calls me and mentions a problem. I say, go and try this. But this is how I suggest you do it. About a month or so later, he calls me and asks for my account number. And says that the advice I gave him works. He wants to give me
business.
And he paid him, I think, 100,000 naira.
What year was this?
2007.
2007. 2007.
2008, around that period. I'm like,
when a pound was still about 100 or something there.
I'm like, are you serious? So there's value in this thing. So I began to read more and began to pay attention. Became intentional about the consulting thing. That expertise is actually valuable. And so all of these put together, amongst a whole lot of other things, led me to the point where I partnered with somebody. We're building Excel and Business Consulting. And what do we do there? It's simple. We help African business owners organize their businesses by helping them set up standards, structures, and systems that would empower them to compete on a global scale.
See, let me tell you something. A few years ago, back 2008, I finished my master's. I come back to Nigeria.
Yeah.
I had the same plan.
Okay.
I started strategy and concepts to focus on SMEs to help them do what you say you're doing right now. One of the biggest problems I had was our mentality.
Okay.
So when a business owner comes to you, they don't want to go through processes. They want instant answers, instant results.
Okay.
How did you cope with that? Did you find the same issues, or?
So we still have the same issues. Now my approach to it was different.
Okay.
And a friend of mine, I don't know if you know Choma Ifanyeze.
I know that name.
Accounting hub. So she actually put it into words, and I loved it. She says she's an accountant. She's an accountant, not an accounting company. What in another way she put it, she says she's an 80% marketer.
Okay.
And 20% accountant. Now, when I started, I was 100% consultant.
Okay.
But then after a while, if you read my early content when I started consulting, very brilliant. In fact, if I read some of those things, I asked myself, am I the one who wrote those things? Very brilliant, but mostly academic stuff that will lead people to say, great job. Wow. But they won't do this. You see, I have made that mistake, and where I made the mistake was you wanted to become the Jesus for business. It won't work. If you try to start a crusade for your business, you will struggle. Seth Godin in his book says, the way he puts it is, go to where people already have a mindset and sell something along those mindsets. Very few people succeed in changing people's mindset. So don't.
Interesting, yeah.
So I'm not too big on changing mindset, no. People are frustrated by how their businesses are running. Employees are stealing from their business. Finding great staff is a problem. So those are the things I talk about. And in talking about that, when we have a conversation, it now ends up in me telling you, you need structure, you need systems, you need processes. But if I say structure, system, processes, they've zoned out. So it's the selling. It's the selling. That was where, and I'm not there yet. I can say I am before 35% in marketing and 65%
So what are you going for?
I'm increasing, no, I'll get to 80%.
So it's not that problem that I have in terms of marketing and trying to reach these people. But currently, what do you consider your biggest challenge when working with Nigerian small and medium enterprises? What is the biggest issue you have trying to reach them, and what is the biggest issue they come to you with?
Okay, so the biggest issue, two questions, good questions. So the biggest issue I have with working with them is them letting go.
Control.
It's a very, very, very big. Now let me digress a bit. Growing up, you know the notion, yes, the man is the head. So he wants to oppress everybody. When his children begin to grow and begin to have their mind fulfilled, that feeling that he's losing control makes him lash out. Many of us saw it happen with our parents. That's how most African business owners run their businesses. They don't want to let go of control. I asked, like, if you're an African business owner watching this, let me ask you, will you be comfortable not signing checks in your business? Anytime I ask that person, like, not sign the check, do you think people like Dangote and everything they sign checks? You can teach your business to sign the checks. You don't have to be the one signing the checks. Signing checks is, I believe that's a waste of time. It's the easiest thing to be done. If you you have a system that gets money to where it's supposed to be, you don't need to sign checks. So they want to just control everything. That's the major obstacle that I think. That and them not accepting that they need a new level of knowledge.
The
To
company
be able
where they
to,
are.
to be able to, you can't solve today's problems with yesterday's knowledge. So take for example, we try to structure the business and we get excuse me, better employees, we train them. And you, the business owner, doesn't want to improve in your capacity to manage these advanced people, you will bring the whole system down. So that's with the business owners. But the problem they come to us for is, for lack of a better word, they're all overwhelmed.
Internally, it is internal factor, external factor.
Internally and externally. A lot of them are now, many of them actually have incredible businesses and they're doing fine. But there's so much connected to them.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's overwhelming. It's frustrating. You have a system. You have a system where, or you have a business where even common decisions that can solve problems, they still have to come to you. I have a client who diesel finished on a Saturday morning, and they are calling him that they want to go and buy diesel 2,000 naira. And he has management team. Now, I told him it was his fault. You started the business that way and you haven't restructured to let go of some of those things. So many of them are over. They will tell you that they can't find the best staff. They will say they are not making enough sales or production issues. No. You've designed a system that is overwhelming. That's what it all boils down to. You are doing every other person's job and leaving your own undone.
Interesting. I like to say that until you build something bigger than you, it's a little bit hustler. The dream is not just to, as much as it's your business, might be your baby.
Yeah.
The dream is to build something that will
outlive you.
So once you drop dead, that's it. My brother-in-law was telling a story of how some man died, and everybody was trying to get his phone unlocked because that was where everything was. And without that, nothing move forward. And we need to, I guess that fear is something we need to begin to let go of in this country, especially. We're afraid of losing out. We're afraid of being cheated. And it goes. I mean, it's a very deep conversation. Looking at staff, looking at ourselves. I won't go into today. But something else I found interesting when talking with people, when Nigerians. I remember when the government did the win 10 years ago, and I thought it was a good idea, but struggled with the concept of giving someone 10 million naira, but never managed 1,000 naira on his own before. I just want to say that everyone wants to start big. We have these illusions of grandeur, or legitimate dreams, ambitions, but that urge to start big. I've always said start small. How do you counter that too? And what do you think about that?
So I had a strategy session with someone yesterday, and the person wants to start a business. Has done business before and has some sizable amount of money, and is telling me that she feels that money is too small. And eventually I told her that I would rather we find a business or start that business with 10% of what you have and make mistakes with that 10%.
Sure.
And learn lessons from that 10%. So let's assume you have 10 million naira. Let's start the business with 500k. Let's make mistakes at 500k level or 200k level. Let's learn the lessons. You know you can actually create an incredible business idea and the market rejects it. So imagine you spent 10 million to start the business and the market rejects it. You almost commit suicide. Versus you spent 500k to 1 million naira, and this happened to one of our clients many years ago. She had about 8 million naira, she wanted to do something. So after enough convincing, we worked with her to spend just about 700,000 or 800,000 naira to test the market. She did. Market rejected the product. You know, she gave us an extra 1 million naira for everything we did for her. That she's actually just spent 800,000 naira to know that business will not work. So we've saved her 6 point something million naira.